My name is Nicholas Detweiler. I'd like to talk to you today about John Brown and the ghosts of Pottawatomie Creek. I could ask John Brown one question, would be, do the ghosts of Pottawatomie Creek haunt you? Now, I'm speaking of William Sherman, Alan Wilkinson, William Doyle Sr., William Doyle Jr., Drury Doyle. They were all murdered by John Brown, my hero, on the night of May 23rd, 1856, at Pottawatomie Creek in Kansas Territory, 5 years before the Civil War. It was a horrific night in the act of a fanatical terrorist. I did say he is my hero. I embrace Brown not for what he did at Pottawatomie Creek, but for the truths he spent his life pursuing. But my question of do the ghosts of Pottawatomie Creek haunt you is relevant because if the answer is no, then I can no longer accept him as my hero. When he was pushed to give by an honest answer by his sons, who were not at Pottawatomie Creek, John Brown Jr. and Jason Brown, Brown suggested that he had judged the men that he murdered guilty of murder in their hearts, that he left it to God to judge him. I don't doubt this is true, and if he was being honest with you, and you were to ask him, I think it's the same answer he would give to you. But for John Brown Jr., Jason Brown, these are not satisfactory answers. Their reflection on Brown, I believe, meant a great deal to him, and I believe it caused him great pain. But if you would like to understand the Browns, and not just John Brown Sr., you should know that they came to the fight on their own in their own ways. In fact, when John Brown Jr. was said to have been driven insane, and I believe he was temporarily insane, it may have been that he blamed himself for bringing his father into the fight rather than his father's role in it. Brown's faith can be confusing because he was raised as a Calvinist who believed in predestination. While slavery was considered to be a great sin among Calvinists and Baptists like Lincoln, it was still part of God's plan, just like everything else. So why does a man with Brown's faith choose to take the role of critical actor? You see in Lincoln sometimes efforts made not to take that role, but being forced into it. Now, some scholars would suggest that Brown's father's death, Owen Brown, caused him to question his faith and wrestle with it, and that his acts at Pottawatomie Creek and beyond reflected a turmoil within Brown and an inability to accept the idea of predestination. This is very interesting, but if you'd like to go off of what John Brown actually said, rather than what you think might have been going on in his mind, I think a more concrete analysis is to say that his sons brought him to Kansas. Harper's Ferry, when he was lying mortally wounded, being interrogated after his defeat and capture, told his interrogators that it was his sons that brought him to Kansas, that he didn't want to go. And we have hard evidence that suggests the same thing. I don't believe that John Brown would put that responsibility on their feet if he didn't honestly feel that that's what happened. But how did John Brown go from a fanatical terrorist to a holy martyr? Did not repeat the mistakes that he made at Pottawatomie Creek. When he went to Harper's Ferry, he preserved life even knowing that it was going to guarantee a military defeat. He points this out in his interrogation as well. They express disbelief that he could come to Virginia with 18 men, accomplish something on the scale of insurrection against the United States. And though Brown does suggest to the interrogators that it was a mistake, had Brown slaughtered the town of Harper's Ferry, I probably wouldn't know who he is. He wouldn't be my hero. He never would have become a martyr representing the anti-slavery narrative that was taking place in the United States. And make no mistake, Brown did not represent in any way commonly held views within the United States. I would say he doesn't hold views that are necessarily commonly held today. Brown never saw himself as a white man, saw himself as a human being. He didn't see anyone as white. White history, white people, is a concept created to exclude, and Brown saw that very clearly. And in the last moments, I believe it's very possible that he realized that truth had nothing to do with the town of Harper's Ferry. All he had to do was die for his belief. John Brown's truth, his light, his body, his soul, his transcendence, all become real when he chooses to go to Harper's Ferry not to kill, but to die for his beliefs. This is a martyr. And I believe that in modern times, its significance has sometimes been lost on us. But I submit to you, this is why Mohammed Bouazizi is a hero and Osama bin Laden is not. I forgive Osama bin Laden for what he did to America, though I'll never forget watching people on fire jump out of a building. That violence sprang out of violence that America committed. Osama bin Laden chose to respond to it in the wrong way, the same way that John Brown chose to respond to violence in Kansas at Pottawatomie Creek. That's not how you change the world. I want to leave you with a more realistic portrayal of Brown. But what my take shows is that he was either lucky in not taking life at Harper's Ferry, or he was a genius. My guess is that he was lucky. I don't see any lies in Brown's interrogation, although it may be that his understanding of what could occur, even though his insurrection was a failure, he might have seen that his interrogators would never understand that truth. I mean, he tells them that, look, see, slavery is a great sin. I'm here to put a stop to it. That's all it is. He said, I mean you no offense, as if saying, well, you're committing a mortal sin, but whatever, no offense, It's a little silly, but that's what he said. What I think really matters is that his acts leave room for him to be a genius, a hero, an American legend, precisely what we need him to be. What went on in his mind is merely incidental, but he is a vital part of our narrative. And whether you agree with John Brown or not, you can see that vitality in him. John Brown's enemies saw that in him. John Wilkes Booth watched John Brown die. And although John Wilkes Booth hated Brown, he still respected him as an adversary in a way that he never respected Lincoln. Now, I'm not saying that there was something right about Booth's view. But for Booth, Lincoln was a wolf in sheep's clothing. John Brown was a wolf in wolf's clothing. Now, do the ghosts of Pottawatomie Creek haunt you? That is the crucial question. It is the question that answers what was going on in John Brown's mind. But I believe I know the answer, and whether I am right or wrong doesn't matter. The vision does. Thank you. I appreciate your time, and I encourage you to find out more about John Brown.